American football in Finland.
Maple League teams are back in action on Thursday with the Roosters versus the Butchers. Then we have the Crocodiles versus the Wolverines on Friday. And then on Saturday, game of the week is Crusaders versus Royals. I got it right. There we go. So let's spend a little bit of time getting to that first matchup. Roosters, who are 1-2, versus the Butchers, who are 2-2. Going into this matchup, the Roosters will be the home team, but the Butchers did just beat the Steelers. Roosters haven't played in a couple weeks. What's a storyline or a question that either one of you got for this one?
Man, let's see what the Roosters offense, what they adjusted while they had this break. I know a lot of guys are probably healed up that were hurt, so they're going to be a lot fresher coming into this game and hungry more than anything. Butcher's feeling good, but I don't see them beating the Roosters, not in the Velodrome. So I think Gunnar and Miko will do their thing, but without Mickey, if Mickey doesn't play, then it's going to be a lot of stress to go against the Roosters defensive line too. So just more so trying to see what adjustments the Roosters offense have made and getting the balls to their playmakers and see what happens against a better defense.
Yeah. Chris, you got a matchup for this one?
I'm going to say the connection between Brandon Gwynn and Mika Sepinen versus the Roosters secondary. And the reason why I say this is because those two guys are getting it going now. They're starting to ball out. So that secondary better be watchful and better be ready.
I would go one step further, man, and say the Butchers receivers versus the Roosters secondary because I mean, with all due respect to the great Mikko Sepinen, Christian Naughton is the best receiver on that core. But Mikko Sepinen and Lucas Erla, those are all tough matchup for anybody. I think all three of them would
Yep.
be number one receivers on any team in the league. Like that's how good their receiving core is this year. And the Roosters secondary is I don't think they're ready for that. That's a really good matchup. I hadn't even thought about that in this game. That the Butchers because they got too much. Like all three of those guys got speed, hands, good routes, and the combination they ran in the last game is really good. That's what worries me more than anything. I didn't even mention it about the game that they just recently played, but they put the Steelers secondary in some situations where it was just like you don't understand how football concepts are run, man. One guy go in, guy go out. Like they ran a slant wheel, and you didn't understand that this guy's going to run a wheel if he's going to run a slant like that. Like I know the Roosters secondary will be better coached than what the Butchers played against, but they won't be more talented. The Butchers easily have one of the most talented receiving groups in the league. I would only compare their receiving group to who else has a good receiving group? I guess we could say the Crusaders have a good receiving group, kind of, but just a couple
Yeah,
players. But I mean, like the Butchers, all their receivers are on the same level. Like all of them they so far this season, they all each had their own standout games. When you can have different guys step up like that, it's hard to game plan against them. Like trying to game plan against just Sepinen would just be dumb. Trying to just game plan against Erola, dumb. Just against Naughton, dumb. Just against Gwinner, dumb. Like you got too many options. It's craziness. Interesting aspect of this game. I got this one for sure. Two of the most successful Maple League teams fighting for a playoff spot. I honestly don't believe both of these teams get in the playoffs. Only one gets in. And this game has a
we
lot
already
to
we already
happen.
know which one. We already know which one is going to the playoffs.
Okay. Well, damn Rooster
What
fan
do you
come out
mean?
here. But just being realistic about like what happened last year, Last year, I wholeheartedly believe the Butchers were better than the Roosters, yet they never beat the Roosters. Even going into this game, I think the Butchers have a better team than the Roosters. Can they beat the Roosters, though? Dallas Cowboys. I
Dallas
mean,
Cowboys.
what 2-2? If that ain't Dallas Cowboys, I don't know what is. Win, lose, win, lose. Like they just won last week, so what you expecting this week? But the Portland Butchers, they were the dynasty before the Roosters were the dynasty. Portland Butchers have a long history of winning Maple Bowls before the Roosters became a thing. Not before they became a team, but before they became their dynasty. I think what years was it that the Butchers were back there just knocking back championships? Those in the 90s?
Shit, it had to be like 2000s, early 2000s.
I think they had the early 2000s. Then
yeah, it was like early 2000s.
And then
I know they won. My first year was 2000, I believe 8, and I know they won that year.
Yeah, but that was the last time.
So,
like that was an off year. Like the last time the Patriots won the Super Bowl. Like it caught at people off guard. They had a run where they won like 6 in a row.
If
I'm not mistaken. And then
it's when Seppo them was younger.
Yeah, when
Seppo was younger.
Butchers Legends is what they were called, right?
Yeah, they had the brothers, the whole his younger brother, older brother.
The whole family was
whooping
out
ass.
there.
They was whooping ass for some years, but the Butchers was whooping ass, man. Like their whole stadium used to be so full. Used to be full, man. Like it was totally different. Even when the Roosters was winning championships, like their fans were crazy, but the Butchers fans, like that whole environment was just crazy. Their games were so hyped.
Sounds more like the 90s Cowboys, right? Like, come on now.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
can't
exactly
be
what it
any
felt
more
like.
Mirror. Oh man. Like there's just too many coincidences. I hit a nail on the head. But again, this is one of those games like Dallas Cowboys when they play like the Eagles, the Washington team. What's the other team? New York Giants. It's one of those like rivalries where even if they're a better team, they still might lose. And that's what this kind of game is. I think for the Roosters, it's one of those games where I don't think we're going to see a Roosters team that we've seen before, if that makes sense. I think they've had a lot of time away. They've obviously been practicing and working during that time, but what they've done before, you could throw it all out the window. Like they're not bringing that same energy, scheme, philosophy. Like they're going to change a little bit of everything. It's going to be kind of like a different team. That's what I think, anyways. I don't think it'll be what we expect.
Calling all junior skills players, quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, linebackers, quarterbacks, and safeties. If you were born between 2009 and 2003, this midsummer is your opportunity to shine. We'll be hosting our annual AFF Nordic Challenge 7 vs. 7 tournament in Lahti on June 22nd. Top performers will be selected for the AFF Revolution teams in divisions U19, U17, and U15. These teams will have the chance to compete throughout Europe in the fall and play for the European Championship the following spring. If that isn't enough, there will be USA coaches in attendance scouting for the respective high schools and colleges. Due to field availability, registration will close once we meet the maximum number of participants. So head over to the website and sign up today. Registration can be completed at americanfootballinfinland.com/Nordic-challenge.
So the second game of the weekend, I feel like this won't take long, will be the Crocodiles, who are 4-1, versus the Wolverines, who are 0-4 or 0-4. Storyline question in this one. Chris, you got one?
Is this the week that we finally see a 50 burger?
Oh, okay. I honestly thought you were gonna say this the week the Wolverines win. Like I don't know why. That's what I thought when you were going. I was like, why are you saying this?
Hey, I'm not crazy.
Oh, I like the energy you gave made me think that you were trying to call the upset. Yeah, a 50 burger would be nice. Again, I guess the Wolverine. If there's anybody you're gonna score 50 on, why not? The Wolverines. Like, again, if you score 42 on the Crusaders and you don't score, 50 on the Wolverines, people are going to talk. So, do your thing, guys. Q, if there's a key matchup in this one, what would you think it would be?
Woo! If it was,
Yeah, if there was a matchup worth looking at.
man, that's kind of hard to say, honestly. Like, I feel like there's no, like, this game is going to, I feel like this game is going to be an interesting one anyway. But I literally don't have one. I
I'll tell
feel
you.
bad for that, but I really don't have one.
I'll tell you what I'll be watching because I'm pretty much watching the same thing the first like 6-7 weeks of the season anyways. I'm watching line play, and for like offensive linemen, normally the teams have better defensive linemen than offensive linemen, but this year there's certain teams that have it. And for the Crocodiles, they have an offensive line that is good, but are they good? It's hard to tell sometimes depending on who they're playing. And in this game, I want to watch to see if they dominate. Like, is this going to be one of those games where, Christian Powell's going to get his yards, obviously. But is he running through holes untouched, or is he having to work? And the Wolverines are a perfect barometer because their defensive line they're not horrible, but they're not good. Their linebackers are actually very competent. I think Alvin Rills and Willie Linford are very good linebackers. But if your offensive line is good, you can reach that level, that second level, and create holes for your running back. But if your offensive line is, average, you can just cover up bodies, and they both still can't tackle Christian Powell. So that's what's going to kind of be the telling. I don't know if that's a key matchup, honestly, but I know that's what I'm going to be looking at is, again, I'm still writing out notes for the All Finland team, and I'm doing offensive lineman is the hardest position to do. Because a lot of times you try to base it on, like, do they run the ball well? Are they able to get a lot of yards? Can they pass protect and stuff like that? But you can't really tell unless you're watching them in certain situations. And when you're playing against, like, the Crusaders defensive line, you better be doing good. I expect you to. They don't have anybody that can do anything. But when you're playing against, like, the Wolverines defensive line is decent, and their linebackers are actually good. If they didn't have good linebackers, it wouldn't matter. But they have one level worth scouting that I can see how good someone is on how they play against competition. Like in this season, I think the Roosters, the Crocodiles, and the Steelers have the best defensive lines. The Royals have one of the best defensive linemen in DeMarco Artis. I guess they would be a good D-line too, because those other guys are pretty good up front. Not as good as the other three teams I mentioned. So when offensive lines play those teams, I'm watching more intently to see how they fare. Do they win more than they lose? Are they moving bodies or just, taking up space? And this is one of those games where I think the Crocodiles, I don't want to see them taking up space. I want to see them dominate. And if they're dominating, I know that it's the line creating opportunities. They're not dominating, they still can win, but then I know it's more, Christian Powell doing his thing as he does. We'll see. Interesting aspect for this game. We already said 50 burger, right? Ain't nothing interesting about this game. It's a game on a Friday, I guess. Oh, interesting aspect. Will I have to watch more than one half of a Wolverines game? Probably not. Probably not. Would be interesting to see. Okay, so last game of the weekend, game of the week, Crusaders, who are 1-3, versus the Royals, who are 2-1. Storyline, I got this storyline. Who has the better defense? I think both of these offenses can score points, especially after what we saw from the Crusaders last week. I think they didn't have – Cedric Johnson didn't play in that game either. I think if they bring him into the fold with those guys, they can score points. That's for sure. And we've seen the Royals, they can score points too. The difference in this game is who can stop the other team every once in a while. And honestly, I don't know. I think the Royals have a better defense, but I have zero faith in their overall secondary. Like I don't believe the Royals like scheme, I guess, or concept or their pass defense. I don't believe in their pass defense. But on the other side, the Crusaders, I don't believe in anything they do on defense. I think they just taking up space.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when they're taking up space, they're playing against an offense that has, one legitimate receiver, a really good quarterback, and a good running back. The Royals' offensive line, average. The Royals' receivers, all 12-year-olds. So it could balance out of whose defense is going to play better in a situation where I think the Royals have a better defense, but they're playing a better offense. Crusaders' defense isn't that good, but they're not playing nearly as a specifically good defense. Like the Crusaders' defense can probably match up against the Royals' offense by figuring out how do you get, Slater and someone else on the same side as Alpha? How do you get Dante Edwards at the linebacker position to meet up with Suosti at times? Like that's all you have to figure out. And then how can you keep Timothy Moravec in the pocket if possible? But for the other side, they got to figure out how do we stop all these imports and we don't know where they're going to be because they play every position. So the question or storyline would be who has the better defense? I think whichever team keeps the other team under 40 wins. I think it's going to be like 42-35.
Yeah.
Like that. Whoever keeps the other team under 40 wins. What about a key matchup? Q, you got a key matchup?
Yeah, I was just thinking, what about for the Royals against the running game of the UNC? Because I'm thinking the Royals offensively can run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with the holes that UNC have on their defense, Swosti might have a big game. Now, if Swosti is having a big game, then that's going to open it up for Alpha a lot. So I think the Royals have the better offense going into the game. Mm-hmm. But I also know that UNC imports can make big plays at any given time too.
Yeah,
especially against the Royals secondary.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you think about like the Royals, you think of as a team as a whole, and then when you think of Crusaders, you think they got a couple spots that they'll be able to just purely talent make plays that you can't account for, and it's hard when you're trying to compare those two different styles, especially since. I mean, if the Crusaders weren't 1-3, they look like they could be fighting for a playoff spot. I mean, they still could. I don't want to count them out.
I'll say this game. If they bring a quarterback in, I'm choosing the Crusaders. If they bring a quarterback in, if they don't, then I'm going Royals. And it's a hard choice. This is a hard choice though, but I just feel like if the Crusaders end up getting a quarterback that can run the ball and throw, that's going to be a problem. Yeah, that's going to be a problem, and then it gives your imports more chances to score, to be better athletes, to be more talented against the other guys. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's this game of the week, though. I mean, it should be a good game. I think it's going to be a good game, though. Yeah.
What about you, Chris? You have like an interesting aspect about this game, something we haven't touched on?
I'm going to say, and it's linked to the quarterback position. Are we going to see His Royal Highness, Mr. Robert Johnson, in uniform?
I don't know, man. He looked pretty comfortable out there in them boots.
Yeah, Rob ain't playing, man.
He didn't have a hat on today, but he looked mighty comfortable in them boots.
If he was going to do it, he probably would have tried to do it today, but maybe not against the Crocs. But definitely Royals. Like I said, if they bring somebody, I'm going with UNC if they bring a quarterback in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But that's going to change the whole dynamic of the game. Like, it'll change the whole dynamic of this game.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup, though. That's for sure.
Yeah.
If you're listening to my voice, you're now part of the AFF community. But don't be shy about supporting us. Head over to our website and order some AFF swag. Get a t-shirt for this beautiful summer weather. Or a comfy hoodie you can rock all year long. And if you really want the drip, scoop up one of our limited edition snapback caps. Everything you need to represent the AFF community can be found on our website at AmericanFootballInFinland.com/merch.
So let's get into the weekend picks. Right now, our pick'em rankings are Chris Green still in first, 12-2. Perfect, Spencer, Coach Q, all tied in second, 11-3. And Finland Swami is now moving up because he was the only one that went undefeated last week at 9-2. He missed the first week of games, so that's why a little bit behind. Or she. I've got to keep the anonymity. It's Finland Swami. Is it a guy or a girl? Who knows? And we won't talk about the rest of them bums because they're not putting in the time like us. So picking winners of the game, not easy, but, we'll give it a shot. Let's go over this week game briefly and talk about why we have them. You can check our picks out on Instagram at American Football in Finland, and you can make your comments there. Coach Q, who you got this week? It's Roosters versus Butchers, Crocs versus Wolverines, Crusaders versus Royals.
I'm going Roosters, Crocs, and UNC.
Ooh, I'm excited. I am excited. Before you even talk about anything, I just want to say, if y'all have ever followed this show, this man, Coach Q Floyd, loyal. I have seen him follow wherever RJ has been. Loyal. Always believes in that man. Loyal to a fault. That I honestly believe that's the only reason he picking them is because with RJ you always got a chance. You always got a chance.
Yeah.
You can't be wrong with that. But go ahead. Why are you making those picks?
I'm choosing those picks because I think the Roosters will come back healthy. And I think their D line will just be too much for Gwinner. A healthy D line going against them, I think it'd be too much, especially without the Butchers really having a strong running game right now with Mickey being out. I think that'll play a part. I chose the Crocs because the Crocs are rolling right now. They're rolling, and I don't see anybody maybe beating the Crocs the rest of the season, honestly. Unless they just playing the sit power one day or something, but I don't see anybody beating them right now. And then I'm going UNC because I think their import play can affect this game. Because I feel like we haven't seen Vasa play their best game yet. And outside of Timothy and Alpha, there's not a lot of options besides Tom Swartzy. But I also respect Swartzy in the fact of he can go to work at any given time. And if UNC don't focus on stopping him first, they're going to have a long day. But I'm still going with UNC because I think Rob them will just find a way to make that offense, give him what they want against a secondary like that. And I just think I think the Royals at some positions aren't that strong, and I think that they'll take advantage of it in the passing game. So that's why I'm going with UNC.
That makes sense. I think that's a 50-50 game for real. I don't like the records. Like, I think the records are deceiving, but it's definitely 50-50. What about you, Chris? What are your picks and why?
So, first game, I'm going to go with the Roosters over the Butchers. I think the Roosters are the better team, although the Butchers have got their tails up after a big win on the weekend. Roosters are going to come out healthy. Dumais, they just need to get him working, and if they get him working, I can't see anyone on that defense really stopping him. He's such an athlete, so I'm going with the Roosters. Second game, Crocodiles, Wolverines. Obviously, I'm backing the Crocodiles. They're the number one team. They're the best team in the Maple League at the moment. The Wolverines are the worst team. So Crocodiles, it speaks for itself. That's an easy one. And then Crusaders, Royals. I'm going to go with the Royals. I think the Royals are a more consistent team. I think the Crusaders are a bit hit and miss. I'm not saying the Crusaders couldn't win this matchup because I definitely think it is a possibility that they could win, but I think the Royals are more consistent. I think Timothy is getting better as the game's gone on. The first game wasn't so great, but then he's got better and better. He's starting to connect with Alpha now, and I just feel like the Royals are just a more consistent team, so that's why I'm picking them.
We never talk about our picks before. And I swear I didn't think it was going to go out this way because I'm going with the Roosters too. I thought me picking the Roosters was going to, be like an outlier. I tell you one thing, guys. We all picking the Roosters. Butchers ain't gonna like that. Them Cowboys fans over there. This last game when they won against the Steelers, I see a lot of Instagram stories where they
Oh yeah,
man. And crazy part is, I was like, that don't make any sense. Like, come on, guys. Like, we would have
just
been
post it when you
crazy.
lose too. Make sure you
Yeah,
post it when you lose too. That's my thing. Like you don't just post when you win. Post it when you lose too. So you know, hey, I was right.
like we
But
would have been
don't act
crazy.
like
They were supposed to lose last week's game. Like, there's no way you picked them over the Steelers at that point in the season. Like,
yeah.
that's a good win, but there's no way. Now, this game, we're going to take some backlash for this if the Roosters don't win because technically the Roosters are 1-2, the Butchers are 2-2. The Butchers just beat the Steelers. The Roosters have lost to the Steelers. I mean, I don't believe in that logic. I do not believe in the logic in football that beating a team mean you could beat another team because it's more of a matchup game. But in this game, honestly, I believe I didn't explain why I chose the Roosters, huh? Because my Roosters pick is way different than why y'all chose the Roosters. I believe the Butchers are a better team than the Helsinki Roosters right now in this season. And when they play in this game, the Butchers will be the better team. But the reason I'm choosing the Roosters is because the Porville Butchers are the goddamn Dallas Cowboys. The only reason. It's the only reason.
They're gonna find a way to lose it.
That's all. That's what I believe. I believe in my heart of heart. I still believe they tried to lose to the Steelers, but the Steelers wouldn't let them. Steelers is like, oh no, you can have the ball back. You gonna give me the ball? No, you can have it. But I don't think you don't do that to the Roosters. We've seen the Roosters, like, if you give them opportunities, they're gonna take it. Like the Roosters organization, they not the type to, like if they find a $5 bill on the ground, they're gonna pick it up, put it in their pocket. Now, if you ask for it later, they'll be like, okay, I guess it could be yours. But if you don't ask for it, they ain't gonna give it back to you. And that's how I feel like this game gonna go. I feel like the Butchers are gonna do something and you're like, oh man, that's a missed opportunity. And the Roosters are gonna boom, seize that opportunity. And then that's gonna be the difference in the game. That's how it's been against these two teams, in my opinion, for the last few years. When I think that they're more evenly talented, the Roosters are a get it done team, while the Butchers are the Dallas Cowboys. I won't talk about it too much longer. I'll leave it at that. Second game, I got the Crocs, obviously, because it is what it is. Last game, I'm going Royals over Crusaders. And this goes back to what I said at the beginning of the season about the UNC Crusaders. I said that we won't get the same team every week. We have yet to see the same team. And something that Chris said really applies in this situation is we're going into week 6 and we see the Royals progressing as a team, getting better at things that a team can get better at. The Crusaders, we just seen them put together a suicide squad, score some points. And next week, we have no idea what they're going to do. That doesn't win.
That's the hardest part, though, is to prepare and is trying to prepare for something you don't even know what you're going to get. So it's like,
it's tough to prepare for. Well, it's one of those things where they actually have to prepare for you more than you have to prepare for them. Because you look at the Crusaders and you think, okay, just find out where the talent is. How do we stop talent? We know Seth Rollins, the running back, so we know what we can and can't do against him. Everyone else is going to be in a position to either get the ball or not. So stop the run game and then make sure that we match up. Like, I mean, no offense, but I feel like that's a lot easier preparation because you just focus on what you do. You don't have to focus on what they do. But the Crusaders, their defense, how are they going to compete against the Royals offense, which is getting better? We're seeing those young guys who we don't think are super talented. They're getting better every week. So now they're able to add more plays. They're able to add variations to their plays. and you can always rely on Swarovski, while the other team is probably spending more time trying to figure out what they're doing than what their opponents are doing. They still got to figure out how we going to make plays, how we going to do this, while the other team is like, how do we get better at what we already do? And I think that's where we're at right now with the Crusaders is they might win some games. I think they could win this game. They honestly could. Like we said before, a couple big plays, boom, they're in it. But I'm not picking that. I'm not going with that because now we're at the point in the season now that I feel like most teams are set. I think the only team that I really don't have a handle on what they're doing or who they are is the Roosters. And that's because they didn't get to play last week or this week.
Yeah.
Like they haven't played 2 weeks in a row. That's a long time at the beginning of the season for a team not to play. But I feel confident about what the Royals are going to do, and I have no idea what the Crusaders are going to do. So I'm going with the team that I know what they're going to do, and that's the Royals. I know.
Yeah, and Timothy, not to cut you off, but and Timothy, I mean, we can probably say this hands down is probably the best QB in the league. So I know he's going to find a way to get them going and get some points on the board.
Yeah.
Which makes it hard for me. Which made it hard for me to pick the UNC because I know like Timothy, I know what he's for the bring.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I know also that you can cover on the back end of it. You can put RJ Slater out there at safety, and that changes everything. It changes everything as far as passing. It's changing everything deep anyway. So I feel like UNC can adjust more to what the Royals do, more so than what the Royals is like. This is all we got on offense. So I think sports TV. I think you see what I'm saying. Like I feel like it's on both sides though, because it's like we're consistent. Royals are consistent on offense as far as running the ball, getting the ball to Alpha. Timothy doing his thing, he can run. You know what I'm saying? But on defense, you can adjust to that when you got imports everywhere.
It's one of those games where it's either going to be a blowout or it's going to be close. And you feel like if it's a blowout, it's because the Royals are just too consistent, and it'll start snowpiling on the UNC. But if it's a close game, it's because UNC is making plays and staying in it. And at the end of the game, anything goes. UNC is probably who you want to bet on over the Royals. If the two teams lined up and you say you each get one drive, shoot, I'd pick UNC.
Yeah, and UNC got the ability to go up early. They got the ability to go up early.
I don't think they'll go up early. They don't know what they do.
I don't think they
have to adjust. I think they have to adjust.
But seeing this Butchers game just made it like, okay, I forgot that the underdog team can hit you in the mouth if you don't lock down like you need to. Before you know it, RJ scored one time, Sid scored one time, Seth beating on your head a little bit in the running game, and now you got Swarovski can't even get his normal carries because you're trying to score now. You're trying to throw the ball now. So,
and honestly, the Crusaders, I think their offense is built that they could come back. I don't think the Royals have in this matchup. I don't think their offense is going to give them an opportunity. Like if the Royals get in a situation where they have to score, I think like you said, the Crusaders have the flexibility to put certain people out there on defense to limit certain. Like if they know what the offense is going to do, they'll be fine. So the Royals have to start fast in this one. Again, I'm going with the Royals, but again, I agree. Like it could go either way in this one. It could be Chris, did you have anything? You didn't say nothing.
Yeah. Because another thing I was saying is like imagine. I mean, not trying to coach UNC defense, but imagine putting Slater on Alpha and then having RJ over the top. Like that's going to change a lot. That's going to change a lot. Timothy is not. I mean, he probably will still throw it sometimes, but that's going to change a lot because you got two ball hawks who you can't miss on these throws because they're going to pick it.
I'm so glad you said Slater and Alpha because I hope both of those guys are listening to this podcast because I remember what was it? Was it 2018? Maybe 2019?
17.
No.
17?
Not when y'all played them.
Oh, okay.
the
But when
following year,
Slater
because
was
when Alpha was with the Carlsad team, I didn't know him, but I met him when
okay.
he was with Gothenburg or something, and then I think he went to Stockholm. And at that time, I distinctly remember either saying or not saying that Slater could guard him. And I don't know
Yeah.
if we ever. I know Alpha is always he's always up for any challenge, but I know they couldn't actually make it happen. But I would love, and for this game, let's just make this happen. I would love to see Curtis Slater guard Alpha Jallo 1-on-1.
Yeah.
Now,
That'll be a woo.
now back then, like in 2018, even 2019, I'm 100% confident that Slater would have put clamps on this guy. I am not that confident anymore because Alpha has become a better receiver since then. Like at that time, he was more raw at receiver than he is now. He was a DB
Yeah.
converted to receiver. He was just an athlete. But Slater has always been, a beyond talented defensive back and can play any position. But now I think they're more on the even playing field. So I hope. I mean, it's got to happen, right? In this game, it's got to happen at some point. They
Yeah.
got to
At some point,
Yeah,
at
it's got
some
to
point
happen.
it will. At some point it will happen.
But I don't know because they might
Hopefully Alpha
honestly
don't go off first and then they have to do
they might
it. So
honestly just keep because they might keep their cornerback on him because Andy Vetta in the last game they had Andy traveling with Yane Sarkala against the Crocodiles.
uh,
It didn't amount to much because they didn't really need to pass it, but they had him traveling, so they trust him and believe in him, and he's a good defense. He's a good cornerback, so that might be the case because we also got to remember that Slater probably be playing both ways.
yeah,
So
yeah. So he'll probably play safety at the most. Starting off, he's playing safety.
yeah.
So they might just keep the corners there.
But
Because there's no way he's playing receiver and corner.
corner, yeah.
Hell no. Yeah,
But
hell no.
for entertainment purposes only, anybody listening who makes these type of decisions, if y'all want to make this game, close, we get into like a fourth quarter, one drive situation. We know what it is. We know what
Yeah.
it is. I say we just pause the game and say best out of 5 and let them go at it. I don't even want nobody else on the field. 1-on-1, best out of 5, red
You might
zone.
see
Let's go.
you might see Alpha on defense too. Alpha might have to play some defense too if it's close.
True. Now that's different. Like I've never seen Alpha play at corner. I've only seen him play as safety. He's more like I would know. He's more like a Slater.
I
No,
thought
no,
he
more like
played
Slater.
corner. He's an okay corner. I think he's kind of like the Devin Hester corner.
He's
Devin
he's
Hester
just
wasn't. He's just
he's so
fast. He's so quick and fast that he can
he's so
make up for a
tall.
lot of
He's
yeah, and he
it's hard.
makes up for it. Like when you
Yeah.
get beat, you make up for it with the ball in the air because you can get back to the receiver. So he has that type of thing. Because I think he played corner a little bit at Leipzig at the Kings. I think he
Okay,
was
that
out
makes
there at
sense.
corner a few times for them. So but he made some people pay too. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah. He
So
could play. He could play defense. I know he
yeah,
can play defense. I just don't know about him playing at corner just because he's super fast, but he's a little bit taller than most like DB. So I don't know. I know he can change direction, but when you play corner, it's not really about speed. It's more about quickness and
yeah,
technique. And I can't vouch for his cornerback technique. Now, at safety, he could do anything. I think he'd be fine. But again, it really depends on what they see the other team doing too. But I would like to see some matchup. There's some good matchups in this game. Also, I think Timothy Moravec gonna have a big day because I
Yep.
think they can't
oh yeah,
really.
yeah,
I don't think there's
yeah,
anything on the other side to really slow him down. And I think they've been adding design quarterback runs for him, which is just really
yeah.
helpful. I think that's going to be
I would say
interesting.
that's where he gonna hurt him at his feet. I think he
Yeah,
gonna hurt him with his feet.
yeah. It's crazy watching Timothy run because he's one of the best runners we've had in a while. I don't mean to be too bold, but the last time I seen a good runner like this back in them Brandon Cornett days, like
Yeah,
Brandon Cornett was an
yeah,
underrated runner,
Yeah, he
but
was. Yeah.
yeah.
he could run, and that's how kind of
Take
Timothy
off.
Moravec. Yeah, he kind of reminds me of that. Like he don't really have to run, but if he run, like he can play running back. Like you wouldn't feel like you lost anything. Just
And it's
interesting.
post-injury. And it's post-injury. Like, before he got hurt, when he was playing with, like, in Poland, oh, my
Yeah.
God. Like, Timothy was, like, one of the – he was probably top 2 quarterbacks in Europe at that time, I think.
Now you just top 20.
He's
still top, though. I just threw that out there. Like, I don't even know who the top quarterbacks are, but you're top 20, bro. Top 20. All right. We'll get out of here then. Any last words, Chris, on these games before we jump off?
Nah, I think we've talked the hell out of these games.
Well, this last game is it's game of the week. Is that interesting?
Yeah.
That's it for this episode of American Football in Finland. Hope it was worth the listen. Any last words before we get out of here, guys? Any last thing y'all want to say to these people?
Well, let's see what happens, baby, as always.
I think we've talked the hell of a lot. I don't think anything else.
Yeah,
let's bring on this week.
Yeah. If you enjoy the show, please follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Podbean, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcast. And don't forget to rate us 5 stars as well. Anything less tells us you are a hater. You can follow us on the gram and Facebook at American Football in Finland. Until next time, never forget
TIF.
We go.
We go.
American Football in Finland.